Most email marketing agencies and freelancers I speak to are stuck in client delivery. And the big problem is they don't know how to find the right talent that can replace them. And whenever they make a hire, they feel like the quality is going to drop and the clients could churn. At my agency, FlowCandy, we've scaled to well over 7 figures. I've not been involved in delivery in years, and we're signing better and better clients every quarter. And the key to this is installing an A-player system. And in today's video, I'm going to walk you guys through the exact A-player system we use in my agency, FlowCandy. And if you don't know what any of this is, or you're new to this, I'm going to link in the description, guys, exactly the system that we use. You can download all of this graph and stuff. But I think you hear a lot about people saying agencies, really any business I'll hear, like, I want an A player. But the problem is when I'll ask people to say, okay, like what is an A player? Okay, you want an A player. Everyone wants an A player. What is an A player? I hear crickets. And I certainly hear this from my students sometimes. I'll ask them, okay, like, you want an A player. Well, how do you define an A player? Okay, in my agency, we have it clearly defined. We tell candidates this when we're recruiting them. We remind our team this every month through various ways, but it's crystal clear what an A player is. And I got a lot of this from a great book called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. We follow mostly his system on what an A player is, but there's 4 ways I think that define an A player. There's grit, there's values, does the person have the skills, and do they get the results? And there is also a priority to this, okay? I've learned in my experience. Now, most companies, most agencies too, they prioritize people that have skills and people that get the results. But in my experience, if you can find people that are gritty, they're aligned with your values, those tend to be the best A players. Actually, at my company, FlowCandy, some of our best people on our team, account managers, never had any experience with email marketing to begin with. It took some time to ramp them up, but because they were so aligned with our values and they had so much grit or a will to really work and figure things out on their own, they were able to acquire the skills and get the results on their own. So in my experience, those are the 4 things that make an A player. And keep in mind, you're always looking for people that are gritty and aligned with values. And if you can find those candidates, if you find a candidate, you're like, hey, strategy person that's maybe has really good grit. I feel like they can solve things on their own. They're really aligned with our culture and our values, but they don't have the best skills yet. I will normally take risks on those people. Sometimes on the flip side, people that have the best skills and get the best results, they end up being terrible values fits and culture fits. They almost end up sometimes being a little bit cocky and arrogant, and they can end up failing at your agency. So that's why I think it's really important to define what an A player is. You don't have to use exactly how I do it, but this is how we do it. This is a proven method, and it's worked for us very, very well. Okay. The next thing you need once you define what an A player is, okay, you need to make sure every single person on your team has a scorecard, okay? Not just even yourself. Like at FlowCandy, I'm still a little bit involved in the agency right now. I have a scorecard. My partner has a scorecard. Our CEO has a scorecard. So everybody, not just like your account strategist or your designer or your people on your marketing team or your operations team, but there's an entire scorecard. There's an org chart too, even like a futures org chart, and every single role has a scorecard. And guys, if you want a little bit more detail, if you're kind of like, what is a scorecard? What is he even talking about? The link in the description, I'm going to link to an entire guide that goes into a little bit more depth. It's almost like a free ebook on this that you can review. In there, there's some free resources, and I link to the exact template we use at my agency for our scorecards. We like to list out all the KPIs, all the core values. The team self-rates themselves on core values, and gives out core responsibilities. We got this system mostly from a coach of ours years ago called Austin Nelsey from 2X. It's built heavily off his program, but also my CEO has kind of installed some other things too. But every single person on our team has a scorecard, okay? And it's really, really important that you have this because it creates clarity on what the role is. And one problem I see a lot of agencies run into, they're like, hey, I need to hire, for example, a strategy person. This is the common one. How do you hire an account strategist, an account manager, especially in email marketing agencies or e-commerce agencies in general? They struggle to hire this role. And the reason they struggle is because they kind of jump to right here. Like their first question is, where do I find these people? They think about sourcing the A player first, which is natural. Like, how do I find an A player? But they don't spend the time defining what the A player is and creating the scorecard. Okay, because if you don't do that first, you're gonna fail here in sourcing the A players because you're not going to be able to clearly communicate what success looks like in this role. All right. So it's very, very important to start there. Now, once you've done that, let's say you have scorecards, you're clearly defined what an A player is. Okay. Like, where do you find these people? Okay. I've found these people all over the place. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks in my experience on what works. But the best place we found A players is from employee referrals and even sometimes client referrals. Okay. Especially A players want to work with other A players and they know what A players look like. So this is by far the best place we found it. It doesn't, it could be all over the place. But current employees, I would consider what we do is we set up we incentivize our team. Like they can earn like an extra bonus if they refer us a team member or a candidate that we're looking to fill, and we hire them. So that's one way we do it. But a lot of times, like people, like I said, A players want to work with A players, and they'll gladly volunteer people that they know that they think would be a good fit here, is a culture fit and gets results. That tends to be the best place. Now, it's kind of like similar to client referrals within like your sales or marketing sort of workflows. It's not always reliable. It's not like something you can consistently rely on. And like every month we know we're going to get like X amount of employee referrals. So you need to have other workflows set up too. We've had a lot of success with paid job boards, stuff like Dynamite Jobs. We work remotely, LinkedIn, Indeed, even we've done that. Now, keep in mind they're paid. You have to pay like a couple $100 normally to fill that job, and you're going to get a ton of candidates, like hundreds of candidates. So most email agencies I speak with or freelancers I speak with, they don't have really good HR systems set up yet. So a lot of time it falls on the founder or one of the owners to sort of screen through these candidates. And you need to make sure you have the time set aside to actually do this properly. Okay, so that's one of the downsides of paid job boards is you need to make sure you really have the bandwidth to sort through all the candidates that come in, and just know that 95% of the candidates they're not going to be a good fit. So it's really hard. You're going to have to really kind of like look at it every single day and monitor it every single day. And maybe out of like 300 candidates, you get 4 that you actually want to interview. So that is my experience, but you can find some really good candidates there. It just takes a lot of time. Recruiters are great too. We've used recruiters. We actually have an in-house recruiter at my agency, FlowCandy now. The problem I've seen though with recruiters though is a lot of email agencies do not take the time to properly set up the recruiter because they don't do the initial work that I talked about earlier. They don't have clear scorecards on roles. They can't define what an A player is. They basically don't have enough context for the recruiter to go out and do their job. So if you have provided that context and you can properly communicate with that to a recruiter, that sometimes is the best thing to do because you can just hand it off to a recruiter. there's all sorts of ways recruiters can get compensated. Like some can get compensated based off performance. Like they you you can start working with them for free, and they get like 10 or 15% of the initial year contract. Some it's like paid hourly or monthly. So like I said, in my agency right now, we have an internal recruiter, but there's all sorts of ways to do it. But again, you need to provide that context. You need to have those systems and scorecards set up. Another one of my favorite things, one of the things we're doing now is we have a whole internal HR pipeline with our recruiter. If you think about a sales pipeline, if you're familiar with that concept, where you have like someone as a lead, then they might book a call, then they might book another call, then they enter into some sort of proposal or negotiation phase, and then you eventually win that deal or acquire that deal. You've seen these pipelines set up in like a tool like Salesforce or HubSpot or something like that. We have the same thing set up in our ClickUp, which is what we use to manage our tasks. We have an entire HR pipeline. Okay. And this has been another great way we've started to find candidates, just because we have so many candidates and traffic coming our way now. And we have we have a careers page and people applying every day. We can now have that pipeline, and we have that recruiter sort of sorting through those candidates every single day, every single week. It's similar to the job board, though. You're going to get a lot of low quality candidates that you have to sort through. And so that's on to my next thing, is like filtering the candidates, especially when you start getting a lot of candidates. You need to first, if you don't have an HR team like we do at FlowCandy, you as the owner need to set aside time to filter through candidates and have the bandwidth to do that, and also eventually build the systems to get you out. But if you're not ready for that yet, I want to give you some tips on how to filter candidates. The number one thing we like to do is we like to do Easter eggs. So these are like sort of things, like little like hints at the bottom of the application, like put I'm an email marketing master, or put your birthday at the top of your cover letter, or what's your favorite color, what's your favorite food. That way, like we know they have some attention to detail, and we can just quickly eliminate 60, 70% of the candidates, okay? Especially in an email marketing agency, especially when you're working with like copywriters, designers, strategists. Like you need people that have attention to detail. So we love putting those Easter eggs. We do that all the time. The next thing we do is we request a Loom video. You don't want to make the application so cumbersome that it takes like an hour to do, where you start getting low adoption or low conversion rate, if you want to think about it like that. But you want to make it a little bit hard enough, like it's going to take them 5-10 minutes, that they're going to have to invest a little bit of time. So we like to do like, hey, send me a quick 2-minute Loom video about your experience in whatever the role is, okay? And that does a couple things. First off, it quickly shows, can they communicate about the role? Do they use their camera? Do they even do a Loom video? We'll have a lot of candidates just be like, hey, I'll tell you. They'll just put in their cover letter. They'll be like, I'll tell you on the interview. Those candidates are immediately rejected. And guys, if you're watching this video, because a lot of people watch these videos and wondering how to apply to FlowCandy, or how to get a job in general at an email marketing agency, or really any job like this, like pay attention here, okay? Like if you don't put attention to detail into your application, or you skip steps in an application, at a company like FlowCandy, we immediately reject you. We don't care about where you worked, what your experience is. Like we want to see you follow the steps. That's really important. If you can't follow the steps properly in the job application process, how can we ever trust that you're going to follow the proper steps when we get you into our marketing department, or our client delivery department, or our operations department? Okay, so it's really, really critical. All right, so we're looking for Loom videos, like the quality of the Loom videos. Do they have their camera on? Do they actually follow directions and submit a Loom video? We're also, eventually, we'll start doing team interviews. So we'll have them meet with somebody that's adjacent in that role. Like let's say we're hiring a designer. Well, the recruiters are good, but they're not like the best at designing. I could do candidate interviews, but I'm not the best at screening designers. So we'll have them interview, let's say it's a designer role, another designer will interview them. We might incentivize the designers to do that a little bit too, like the designers that we already have on our org chart. So that's really important. Another thing we'll do is paid test tasks. And we really like this because we make the task like not too easy, but not so hard that they can't do it. But something that like maybe takes an hour or two of work, we pay them ahead of time because a lot of candidates don't want to work for you. They don't trust you right away. So we'll just pay them ahead of time. Hey, we're going to send you whatever your hourly rate. We'll pay you ahead of time. Here's the test task. Let me know when it's done. And that way you can get a sample of their quality of work. You can get a sample of how they communicate during the work. Are they bombarding you with questions? That's a red flag. Do they say they're going to do it in a day and then it takes them a week? That's another red flag. So the paid test task, it's like basically 50, 100, maybe 200, $300 to basically see what this candidate could look like if you were to move them into your org chart. All right. And then the final thing we do is we always do reference checks. Okay. Really, really important. People, especially in the age of AI, can kind of like hack their way through a lot of these applications with ChatGPT and stuff like that. But we love to see reference checks. Almost all of the A players in our company had amazing references. So that's another thing that we do. And then lastly, the two, I talked about the recruiting pipeline. That's really, really important. As you scale, you'll definitely want to implement this where you have like your own pipeline, just like a sales pipeline. You have a recruiting pipeline of candidates coming in. There's the first call, the second call with a team member. There's a paid test task. There's a reference check. And then there's like some sort of offer letter. That's our current recruiting pipeline. And then lastly, it's one thing to find these A players, but where I see a lot of agencies get bogged down is they don't know how to ramp up A players. It takes time. Not even if you find the most amazing candidate, there's just going to be like issues and problems that they have just because they're net new to your culture. They don't know your clients. They don't know your team members. They don't know your systems. Now, in my experience, really good A players, again, because they have grit and they're aligned with your values. A lot of times, like you can just leave them alone and they'll figure it out. But in our experience, you want to create some sort of ramp up training plan. And so how we do it is every single person that we hire gets a training plan. And we have like a training plan template and ClickUp. We just duplicate it every single time. And the basic structure is there's some sort of welcome, like a kickoff call, and then that goes over their training plan. The first thing that we do in our training plan is we go over the values, the culture, our systems, and process. So we remind them of our values. We tell them like what an A player is. For example, we have a whole presentation on that, whole presentation on our values. There's quizzes on our values, quizzes on what an A player is. We show them our systems, like where to find our SOPs, where to find our checklists, showing them their growth card, telling them who their manager is. So everyone, it doesn't matter if you are a virtual assistant or that is only working part-time, or you are a new CEO or director of fulfillment or director of growth, like a leadership role in our agency. Everybody goes through this same little first 2 weeks of getting ingrained with the values, our systems, our process. And typically there's a 2-week check-in, either with the department head of whatever they're in or their direct manager. And then eventually after that, there's some sort of training plan where like they are shadowing other people in the role. So let's say we hired a designer, they're shadowing another designer. Okay. They also go into like role breakouts. So within each role, whether it's a copywriter, a designer, or a virtual assistant, for example, there are individual breakout training plans, exercises, modules, if you want to call it, that they'll go through, videos that they can watch, lesson plans that they can watch on their own. So we have that. And then all along the way, we're doing 30-day check-ins, 60-day check-ins. And by then, once you kind of, in my experience, after like 30 days, you can kind of tell, all right, is this person going to last here for the next couple months or year or two? Obviously, hopefully 5 years, 10 years. You can kind of tell normally within that 30 to 60-day check-in. And because we have these systems in place, we're able to like quickly judge, okay, like this person isn't working out. Let's move on and hire somebody else. And hopefully, because you have this recruiting pipeline, just like you have a sales pipeline, it's always working in the background. And so you always have new candidates coming in, just like you always have new sales prospects and leads coming in. That is sort of the philosophy behind this. Okay. So that's how we do it. That's how you really find and hire and scale A players at scale to make sure this system is always running in the background. Again, guys, if you like this video, I'm going to link to a lot of this stuff in the description. Again, a free guide on how to get this, as well as I have a template on our scorecards that you can use as well. So I hope this helped you. Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video.